up? This is Yinka Diz.
Peace, this is Outlaw.
And you're listening to the 80s Babies podcast.
And we are back.
Yes, we are.
We've been out for a long time.
A long hiatus, but we back.
What you been up to?
Everything and nothing at the same time. What about you, man?
I got 2 kids now.
Yeah. What's that like?
This will actually come up in the podcast, in the episode as we discuss the topic for today, but it's like the same day over and over and over again, which doesn't necessarily sound as, I don't want to make that sound as bad as it seems, but if you're a parent, you kind of know, like, a routine is so important for your kid.
Right.
And so just like having to get up and just knowing all the things that you have to do. But then at the same time, as we discussed earlier in the week, like you could just have random curveballs that just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And just having to like think quick on your feet. But it's also, it's cool because, I don't know, just interacting with them and like all the smiles and things like that, and just like working with your partner. Yeah. This is great. Great times.
So how has it changed your life as a hip hop listener or a music listener? I'm sure you have less time to listen to this stuff.
I will say, actually, not really. What has changed my hip hop listening is the fact that the team that I support the most, Arsenal Football Club, is actually good. The past couple years since we've not been recording.
Right.
And so much of my attention has been devoted towards not just watching those games, but digesting all the media and things that I can. So that more than anything is actually probably resulted in me not listening to a lot of hip hop music. And of course, if you're a fan of the 80s Babies podcast, sometimes I pride myself on that. I'm going to try to do that less going forward. So from this point on, when we need to, get into some musical topics, I'll be going back into the hip hop listening experience. Yeah,
and speaking of musical topics, May 4th, which is this weekend. So for y'all who don't know, this is Friday, May 2nd that we're recording this.
Right.
May 4th is the 1-year anniversary of the song "Not Like Us."
Right.
By Kendrick Lamar, part of the Kendrick versus Drake beef.
Right.
And so we figured it would be no better time for us to come and kind of get back together and have conversation about it, because it's one topic that has permeated throughout all of hip hop discourse, probably for the last year.
Yes.
And we've not recorded at all for the last year.
This is true.
And we've probably had millions, probably not millions, but many friends of ours who have asked, what do y'all think about the Kendrick beef and the Drake beef and the disses and et cetera? So we're going to try to get a lot of information in one episode. But
and so before we do that, we just wanted to say just a little bit about going forward. We are obviously going to try to start recording more regularly again. We might have a different, like a season of episodes that we might go out. We're still working on some things. We're going to try to do video. If we don't do the drops regularly in the immediate term, just know that they are going to come. We're going to, start recording and releasing more regularly again, like I said. Also, we're going to have some more regular contributors. So first one, very well, is Panama Jackson.
Right. Back by popular demand. So Panama will be more prominently featured. And we have a couple of other guests who you've probably seen before that we will probably try to integrate more. I'm not going to spoil the sauce, but just know that, we're giving thought to getting more collaborators. Right.
And the only reason why Panama's not here is for the same reason. What I was just talking about is I have 2 kids. That man has 4 kids. And so we couldn't make the recording happen today. But he's actually the one who wanted us to discuss the topic that we're going to discuss today.
Facts.
So before we go on, if you want to email us, contact us with any questions or comments, you could do so at the80sbabies@gmail.com. And we're just going to get into it.
Let's get into it.
So I guess we should start it off with, where were you when Not Like Us dropped? And not just Not Like Us, but let's go back to the beginning of the beef.
Sure. I'll start with where I was when Not Like Us dropped.
Okay.
And here's the reason why.
Go ahead.
Because I'll never forget where I was when Not Like Us dropped.
All right.
It was almost exactly a year ago. The beef was everywhere.
Yeah.
To the point where it was in all of our conversations. Like maybe not yours and mine, but like just
we were talking
anytime
about
I'm talking to somebody, we were probably talking over text, but like,
about it,
I mean, it's like, it's a part of all of the discourse.
Right.
Anytime you go out, you're going to hear Like That at least played. A lot of the disses had been dropped on YouTube or on Instagram or, in ways that you probably couldn't really listen to them out like that. But Like That was out. So it was.
Let me ask you. So as I said before, my daily routine is pretty consistent. And, I don't go out to the club anymore. I'm curious. I know that Not Like Us was played out at parties because I saw that on TikTok. What about the other Beef songs? Were any of those songs ever dropped in the club or lounges or anywhere where you went out to socialize?
Like That was played everywhere and still is. Like it's kind of because I mean, Future is played out a lot.
Right.
Future is a darling of the club scene, right? So anytime Future comes out with something, let's go.
Right.
And then it's like not only is it a Future song, but then you've got a Beef verse that's in it, and it's Kendrick. He's clearly talking about Drake.
Yeah.
Like, so yes, that was and is still like a club staple.
Okay.
But so I was at a party, and I was at a Kentucky Derby party, and so that's the reason why I remember this so much is Kentucky Derby around the same time.
Right,
For anybody who's ever been to a Kentucky Derby party, it's like foofy, bougie,
mint juleps,
mint juleps,
seersucker.
I'm in my seersucker. The ladies got the big hats. Everybody's walking around looking goofy. You know what I'm saying? And we got the race on the TV,
right.
and
we let the dress up, we let the show out,
right? And probably some playoff basketball on a different screen.
Right.
It's a DJ. It's a party.
Right.
I'm in the party. And that day, another Kendrick diss had dropped earlier that day, right? So that's what happened. It was all within the the same period of time. So I'm actually looking at this thing that kind of chronicles it, right? So
because he dropped like 2 back to back before we even had a chance to enjoy the first one. He drops the second one.
So we'll talk about this a little bit more when we kind of go track for track if we do that, but. On May 3rd, 2024, 616 in LA by Kendrick Lamar drops.
Right.
I remember where I was when this dropped because I was in my car and I was like trying to pull it up so I could listen to it in my car. So 616 in LA drops. May 4th, Family Matters by Drake drops. Meet the Grams drops by Kendrick Lamar. Like he steps on his work immediately, right? Like Family Matters drops, Meet the Grams drops. If y'all have heard this song, it's very somber. It's a slow Alchemist beat where this man raps from the persona of all of his family members and just tears his whole life to shreds. Cool, but not something you would hear in the club. Like, fairly just, somber and low. So the burn was already there. We probably got to this horse race shit and we're just talking about this as homies until the music, really got going. So I'm at this party and Not Like Us comes out, and I'm looking at my phone. I'm in the party. I'm looking at my phone, and I see Kendrick just dropped something. So I immediately, and the reason why this is funny is because there's a specific bartender. It was a black lady, and she was cool. She was hitting us with the heavy drinks.
All right.
So I had just seen this lady 2 minutes before that, right? So I come running back to the bar, right? I got my drink in my hand, and I'm running all the way back, and she's looking at me like, "Bro, you can't be that thirsty that you need another drink like this bad, Right. So she's like, "Yo, are you good?" And I got my phone in my ear, and then I realize that I have my AirPods in my pocket. So I pull my AirPod out. I got my AirPod in. I'm like trying to listen, and I hear it, and I'm like, okay, oh, he's done. Yeah. And I'm at the bar,
and right then and there.
Yes, and everybody at the bar is looking at me like, "Yo, what are you doing? Like, are you taking a call?" And I'm like, "Nah, I was like, yo, Kendrick just dropped and it's a club song." And they're like, so then I'm like, okay, he's kind of got at him from both angles, and it's within 24 hours, of the situation. So, I'll just never forget that. Hearing it there, nobody else at the club was thirsty enough like me.
It's a shame you couldn't get the DJ to put it on. That would have been sick.
I mean, how was he going to get it?
I think it's something.
Yeah. But that's where I was. I was at this party, and I heard it at the bar. I'm listening to it with my AirPod, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, no, this is a problem." Because he's taken away the thing that Drake says that he can't do or that he doesn't have.
This is true.
In two ways, and we'll talk about it more when we talk about the track. But in way number one, the catchy outside club hook records that Drake says that you can't make, you make them. But then additionally, a credibility thing. Part of Drake's whole defense against Kendrick was, "I'm more outside of LA than you. Like you don't know about what's going on locally." Yeah. And anybody who knows LA music, and I guess y'all probably know it a lot more now since GNX and all this stuff, but that's what LA sounded like at the time.
Right.
And Kendrick was making a lot of music that was more jazzy and more organized noise, more, like his production was just a lot more worldly than LA.
Right.
But this song was decidedly the sound of LA. And I feel like those were the two angles that he like, you know what I'm saying, hit Drake with, but on the record. But yeah, where were you?
My story is far less exciting. Essentially, I was just at home. But the thing here is that my wife is the one who put me on to a lot of this stuff. Now, as I mentioned before, we were discussing this in our text chat, you, me, and Panama. But my wife, because of a certain class that she teaches, she got on TikTok. So she's just always just following stuff. And she sometimes keeps me up on the culture with some of this. Yeah. And as soon as the first beef dropped, and I don't even remember when it was, but these think pieces and song clips were coming out and reaction videos, and she would just send them whenever she was interested. And my wife hates Drake.
Okay.
Hates Drake.
I was gonna ask, like, what specifically about this what she was interested in.
She likes,
like, what was her angle?
Kendrick. She thinks Kendrick is cool, and she's not really into hip hop music like that. But there's still just certain, you can't really escape it. It's in front of you. Yeah. And so there's certain people like, oh, I like him, I don't like him.
Right.
She likes Kendrick. She hates Drake. She hates everything he stands for. She hates the way he looks, the way he dresses, the way he sounds, the way he raps, the way he sings.
Have you seen that?
She doesn't think any of his bars are quality at all.
Have you seen that video of DMX on the Breakfast Club where they ask him what he thinks about Drake?
No, which one? No,
it's exactly what you're saying.
What it is?
It's like they ask him like, yo, yeah, have you heard about Drake? Because Drake was big at the time. This is like earlier on Drake.
Basically, I think the reason why she started following this beef closely, not just because of the content creators, but the song itself, Euphoria. I think that's the one, and forgive me for actually not being intimately familiar with every single beat track. Obviously, I know Not Like Us, right? But which is the one where he talked about, like, I hate this about you. I hate the way that you dress. Yeah, like you a bad bitch and all this other stuff. Is that Euphoria?
I think that is Euphoria.
Yes. That song and that verse, I think, just touched her soul so deeply. And from that moment, she was hooked. So every single time something dropped, unless it was like Drake, she didn't send me any of that stuff. Every single time Kendrick dropped something, she sent me the song and then all the think pieces, like just boom, 3 in a row. Yeah. And if you're in a relationship with someone who likes to send you things, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Right. My text messages with her were just inundated with this entire thing. Okay. So I actually heard the hard-hitting line, the try to strike a chord that was probably A minor. I heard that before I heard the rest of the song because of some little clips that she was sending me. Okay. So essentially that's just what it was. Like that. But my whole experience with this song and with this beef initially was just experienced through the TikToks that my wife shared with me. And then just her being so excited. I've never seen her more excited about hip hop before than this experience. She hates Drake still. If she saw him, she might try to slap him. So everything,
it's that bad?
Kendrick is her hero for this.
Like, what specifically about him? Like what was the thing that set her off about Drake?
Because Drake, at the end of the day, is the fuckboy of all fuckboys. He's like the fuckboy mascot icon, whatever you want to say. Like everything that she.
So this has to do with like his relationships with women, or
relationships with women, relationships with Black culture, all those things. Like she's very sensitive to that stuff. Okay. So just Drake is he's a very prominent figure who just like represents all those things that she hates about men. She doesn't hate men, but if you could encapsulate everything you hated about men, outside of like Donald Trump and some, far right wing conservatives, like Drake kind of encapsulates all that. Okay. And so, yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
So that's basically, though, like I said, it wasn't like some kind of experience outside at a cookout or whatever. Or it was just my wife sharing all this stuff with me. Yeah. So she was up to date on, it's like as soon as it dropped, she was up to date on all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's fascinating because, like you said, I mean, you mentioned kind of being in and out of it. This was a beef that went kind of fast in terms of the way, how quickly the record, like once they came, they came like back to back. But, if you're not like really tuned in, you probably only really know the tent poles, right? Yeah. Like that, Not Like Us, and maybe one of Drake's 3, records that he dropped. Yeah. But it sounds like you kind of were, due to kind of the TikToks and the different opinions, you were kind of clued in all the way at all the different steps of the beef.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't even think I heard every single song.
Okay.
I certainly, if I did, I didn't listen to them like more than once.
Yeah.
With the exception of Euphoria, maybe Meet the Abrams, and then obviously like Not Like Us, right? Yeah. It's Meet the Abrams, right?
Meet the Grams.
Meet the Grams. Meet the Grams. My apologies.
He might be Stacey Abrams' cousin, on the low, on his mama's side.
When did you know that this was? When did you know that Kendrick was going to go this hard? Like this is not going to stop. Like, because it was a first person shooter comes out,
right,
and then Like That comes out,
right,
and so I'm assuming that you knew it's like, okay, well, Drake is going to have to respond.
Yeah.
So wait, remind me. So after Like That comes out, does Drake respond again, or does Kendrick put Euphoria?
Drake responds twice. I mean, okay. So he does the push-ups, the drop and give me 50, and then he had something called tailor-made freestyle, which we talked about, which was like him rapping from the perspective of Tupac, telling Drake or Kendrick to end Drake.
Is that the one that did he use AI for that?
He used AI.
Okay, so do me a favor and our listeners a favor as well, in case they need a recap. Can you go through and just chronicle all of the ordering, everything starting with first person shooter, and just real quick synopsis on the order of which these things came out.
So I don't have a date for first person shooter here,
just the order.
But yeah, so first person shooter comes out first, and that's relevant because we later found out that was supposed to be a song with all three of them,
right?
And it was supposed to be them saying like, we're the big three, and that's why J. Cole keeps that line in there, we're the big three, like Muhammad Ali, right? For some reason, Kendrick decides not to do the song, or just maybe doesn't get his verse in on time, whatever. He's not on the song. So they put the song out with just the two of them. Kendrick feels a way about the song with the two of them. I've heard different things about that. I've heard that like they took some shots at him kind of on the low with their bars just because they were annoyed that he didn't participate, whatever it was. But green light, he releases on this future project, his verse on Like That. And I've got the dates here. So March 22nd, 2024, Like That comes out.
Okay. And when did first person shooter come out? That came out like a few months before, I'd have to look right?
But yeah, it was probably like February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so then Drake comes back with push-ups, drop and give me 50, largely about Kendrick's contract and how you'd have to pay X amount of money to even get out of your contract to make as much money as me, whatever. You're getting jerked by your label, all this other stuff.
When is a J. Cole diss and retraction and apology? When does that happen?
That I don't even have. And the crazy thing about that, the reason I don't have it is because that has almost been erased from the world and the memory. But yes, J. Cole was initially a part of this, and you're right. He puts his diss out, and then he said he was going to take it off of all streaming services and et cetera. He apologized.
Smart move.
Yeah, maybe. That's like a whole other conversation that we probably should have. But yeah, so Push-Ups comes out April 13th, 2024. And yeah, again, Drake getting at Kendrick about, his label and all this other stuff. So then, Drake starts kind of leaking these little like, I don't know, Instagram posts or whatever saying like, yeah, I thought you were the chosen one. Where are you? It should only take you 24 hours to respond, all this other stuff. So he's getting academics and he's getting all these people to run out here and try to force Kendrick off the ledge. Because in his mind, supposedly he's heard that Kendrick has these records on him already.
Yeah, okay.
And he's trying to get him to leak it out, because I think his camp thought that Kendrick was going to try to release an album on the back of a Drake diss.
Okay.
And he was trying to botch his rollout by being like, no, just put it out.
Okay.
So on April 19th, he comes out with the tailor-made freestyle.
Right.
And this has a verse from Tupac in Tupac's verse in AI, and a verse from Snoop in Snoop's voice from AI. Left it out there to mixed reviews. I have a lot of feelings about this particular song, which I could go on and on forever about it, but a lot of people view Drake as like the company man.
Okay.
And at the time, the concept of AI, whether it was BBL, Drizzy a little bit later, or all these other things, right? Like people were coming out with all these AI songs where they were taking somebody's voice and then making it into a song. And there was this thought process around like what the copyright law looks like for you taking your favorite artist and just making a song by them.
Right. Okay.
I feel like Drake was Universal Music Group's guinea pig to see if they could get away with putting out music with somebody like a major person who has a catalog's voice to see what would happen from a copyright perspective. And I think that a lot of the backlash that came from it made them pull it down before they really got to do all the data collection that they wanted on, one, what the popularity of that was, and two, if there was a risk profile that would be, you know, associated from a litigation perspective with taking people's voices and just doing whatever they want.
I hadn't even considered that, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that was part of it. But then, of course, so Tupac's estate did eventually come out and be like, yo, what the fuck?
Right.
He pulled it down, but I think he largely pulled it down because it was very unpopular.
Okay.
Yeah, so he did that. April 30th. So 11 days later, Kendrick comes with Euphoria.
Okay.
And this says, a lyrical clinic. Kendrick dismantles Drake with surgical precisions over multiple beat switches.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the one you're talking about. So then a few days passed.
I think that was the first one that really caught my attention, at least in terms of what my wife had sent me, because you and Panama had talked about the AI thing.
Yeah.
We had a comment. This was in the text chat.
Right.
But I think it was just how much Kendrick hated Drake that caught my wife's attention, which then, of course, flooded my message box with all that stuff.
Right. Okay. So then 616 in LA comes out on May 3rd, 2024.
Yeah, that's a good track.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's the sleeper of the pack.
It's a really good song.
Yeah, it's really good. But I think it might be the record that you have to be into music to like.
It's got that jazziness to it. Like it's really cool.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a You Can Outlaw track for sure.
And he also stole Drake's whole like timestamp thing, right? So that's the title in and of itself is like kind of a diss.
Right.
But then May 4th, 2024, Family Matters by Drake. And let's pause here for a second. It's actually a really good diss. It's the best diss from the Drake side of the house.
Okay.
And if it weren't for the way Kendrick stepped on it and then double stepped on it, I think it would be revered. Like people would be like, "Wow, that's a really good diss record." But I think he overplayed his hand with like the whole shooting a high major, motion picture music video for it, trying to get a van that looks just like Kendrick's mom's van, but it wasn't exactly the right make and model. Like I feel like he did a lot of major label stuff where a hip hop battle is like a dog fight and you're trying to like prize fight it.
Okay.
But yeah, so Family Matters drops. And all the Drake people are like, they're vindicated. Like they're like, see, we told you. He's the best. Like he's the greatest. And then my man doesn't even give him but a few hours. Meet the Grams drops by Kendrick Lamar, also on May 4th. Just hours after Family Matters, it says here. And this says, this is arguably the most devastating track, structured as a letter to Drake from his loved ones. Crazy. If y'all haven't heard Meet the Grams, press pause on this. Go listen to Meet the Grams. I pray in my life that I don't piss somebody off so much that they want to make a Meet the Grams about me. Like, like this is a level of hatred that you really have to have where you've been thinking about somebody for a really long time. Like, yeah. And then Not Like Us, May 4th, 2024. Of course, it was in the evening, so that was why, it came on when I was at that party.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which you asked me you started to ask like maybe when did we know this was over? When The Heart Part 6 by Drake came out on May 5th, 2024, I was also at a party, which probably tells you something about my life, and maybe I need to look at myself in the mirror. But the reason I remember that was because I was at a party, and we're all chilling and we're all talking about the beef. And I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, yeah, it's over, blah, 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 blah. And I look at my phone and I go, hey, yo, Drake just responded. The dude who's DJing goes, what? So we mic up the aux.
Okay.
And we play The Heart Part 6 for everybody in the party.
Yeah.
And I remember just looking at everybody's face and they were all like, oh, nah, man, he's done. Nah, it's over. like everybody, even the people that were on the Drake side, when they heard that song, it was almost like a white flag being waved.
When do you think Drake knew he was in trouble?
I don't think it was until Not Like Us.
You think that was it?
I think Not Like Us was when he was like, okay, like I have no more angles that I can attack this person from.
Listening to The Heart Part 6, which lyrically is like, it's not terrible, but in terms of a diss track, it's like, you're pretty much saying that, hey, you had bad information. Why would you say this about me? And then he laughs at him. He kind of mocks him. And he's like, you've got 5 more of these? Like, bro, take it easy. Right. At that point, it's very clear to me. It's like, no, Drake is done. Yeah. And the fact that it's the last diss track in the sequence, but it's not the last diss track in the sequence. It's like no one cares about it. Right. Like the fact that Kendrick didn't even need to respond because his track became a hit. Yeah. Was, I don't know. It gave me life.
And you know, I know I got my shirt on today, but I don't have a whole lot of inside information. But one thing that was kind of moving around was that Kendrick may have either had more in the clip.
That's what I understand.
Yeah, and people were like, all right, like that's enough. The dude is done. He's on the floor. Just leave him alone.
You know what I think happened? I think that obviously this has been a lot of pent up frustration with Kendrick. I think he wanted to do something like this for a while. Yeah. If you listen to First Person Shooter, it's really not that big of a diss. Like Kendrick didn't have to respond.
That's true.
He could have responded with like the way he had been responded with like little sneak disses. Right. He didn't actually have to do this.
He had been waiting for this.
I think it was one of those things where you just really hate someone and they just do something just like in the slightest and he just says, fuck it. And then just goes all out and
facts.
Because the fact that it took kind of a long time between, what was it, Push-Ups and all the other records, it was like 11 days or something like that.
Yeah, maybe like the whole sequence.
Yeah, he was just recording them and writing.
It was like April 19th and then April 30th. But I tell this to all my homies back home, and I tell this to y'all. We say it's like a hood thing. Leave the shortest person alone. Like, yo, leave short men alone, bro. Like, short men, like they got something to prove, dog. Don't play with no short dude, man. Like Kendrick, just don't play with him. Like, I just wouldn't have played with him just off the strength of his height.
What was your favorite moment experiencing this song, if you have one? Because the coolest thing about this is that, you know, every single year, presumably, or, you know, every single year there's like a song of the summer. Yeah. And this song didn't, I guess it was close to the summer, but it didn't even release in the summer, it released in the spring. Right. And yet not only was this the song of the spring, it was a song of the summer. Yeah. It was a song of the whole year. Yep. And you could play it at the club now and people still bop to it. Yeah. Of all of, you know, all this whole time frame, what was your favorite moment experiencing this song?
I think so. I DJ'd a party over the summer. Maybe it must have been towards the end of last summer, so it might have been like August or something like that. But whenever it was, I was DJing this party, and it was a party in the backyard. The homies had a party. It was kind of like a housewarming party for his crib, and it was a backyard party that was supposed to be a small gathering, but it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It was like all the homies would come through and be like, "Oh, yo, this is mad fun. Come through." And it just got bigger and bigger. Yeah, it was huge. Yeah. So I'm DJing this party and it's really big. And I played that song. And I actually had played it earlier in the night. Of course. But somebody came back and was like, "Bro, you gotta play that now."
Of course you got to.
Everybody's here now. So I dropped it and like everybody rapped every word. Yeah. And I don't know that like even like West Coast, East Coast, whatever songs, like I don't know that I know another song that's like that everybody knows every word. But I was like dropping the fader throughout the song because everybody was rapping it. Like it was like they were keeping pace with it the whole time. Right. And man, when A minor came, I mean, like you probably could hear it through the whole neighborhood. Like it was that loud. So that's probably my favorite, like, personal moment that I had with the record. How about you?
I don't really have one in the sense of being out. Like I said, I will just say, look, I saw all the clips. I saw the Weathermen putting it in their little routines and things. Yeah. Of the content that I consumed, I think for me, the fact that you were hearing it played and seeing it played at kids' birthday parties, was,
I saw a lot of that.
Which is going to lead me to my next question here. At what point did Not Like Us become the greatest hip hop diss record of all time?
I think that might be it. Like, it's a tongue-in-cheek statement, right? Like there's arguments for others, just like there's an argument for this one. But man, like preschool kids rapping this joint word for word is crazy. Like I feel like it becoming accessible in that way is probably what makes it like the greatest.
Kendrick, okay. So Panama actually wanted us to address one of these questions in terms of like this song and the stratosphere that it put Kendrick Lamar into, right? Now, I know that he got a lot of Grammys for this. Did he get Grammys for the song or the album? What kind of awards did he get?
Yeah, he got a lot of song ones.
Did he get any accolades for his album?
I don't remember. I'd have to pull it up. And I'm not a big like award show guy. So for me, it's just like it's like, oh, check. Nas finally won one. Check. Kendrick wins. Like I don't really keep up with like, oh, it was for this or it was for that. But I can take a look.
Because what I want to know is, let's say his album was praised critically by the masses, right?
All right, I can give it to you right here. So he got best rap song, best record, best song, best rap performance, best music video.
Okay, so everything is for Not Like Us and not necessarily for GNX. Is it Gen X or GNX?
GNX.
GNX, okay. Because I was curious, because I know that he also got some nominations at the AMAs, and I think he got some for GNX as well.
Okay.
Because what I'm curious about is like, would people care about that album as much if not for Not Like Us?
No, but like I don't know, because of the album itself, I don't know that it's such an aha moment, if that makes sense.
Do you even think he releases the album if not for that diss track?
I think he comes with an album.
Do you think it's this album? Because I almost feel like he has so much momentum that he could kind of get away with a throwaway record. And I know that we were GNX comes out in November, right? Sometime around then. And I know that we were so excited for Kendrick, like just the whole momentum.
Right.
That anything he did at that point, we were just going to consume. But I do remember like talking to some of my friends and they were like, it's cool. It's like, it's not bad. Like I like a few tracks here and there, like it's cool. But like everybody was still listening to it. And of course he's got like videos coming out. And then of course he's got like one of the best drops of all time. Mustard, right?
Yeah,
dope, right? And of course, the Super Bowl halftime show and all those things. But I'm curious if it was the momentum of Not Like Us that just allowed him to just, like, you know what, I'm just going to drop this even if it's not my best work.
So I think he puts it out, but I don't think it sounds the way it sounds.
Right.
In that, I do think that Not Like Us was a direct response to something that Drake said about him, which was you don't represent the streets of LA, basically, right? And I think that GNX sounds like the streets of LA. Okay. And, the collaborators on there are niggas that are probably 15, 20 years younger than Kendrick, right? Like these are the kids that are out in LA right now. And I think he made an LA for LA's sake album off the coattails of Not Like Us. Now, if he puts Not Like Us out and people don't really receive it so much because it sounds too West Coast, then maybe he goes back to Terrace Martin and he makes another To Pimp a Butterfly. You know what I mean? Like I think it kind of dictated the direction, but I still think he drops an album probably later in the year.
One thing I noticed about Kendrick's last two albums specifically is that they're very topical to when they're released, not just the year, but like the month. So it seems, like he's talking about things that like just happened like a week ago. Yeah. And so it does seem like this was something that was a response to the diss and not necessarily something that he would have been working on.
Yeah. And they said that like he's a studio rat. Like he, even these diss songs that he put out, while Drake kind of tried to force him off the ledge and they said he had some of this stuff before, he was going back and redoing verses and changing things and stuff like that. Like they say he's kind of always in the studio.
Where do you think this song put Drake into like a different stratosphere of where he was previously and where he is now? Like, what exactly did this song do for him, like right now?
I think it entirely crippled him. Like, I think it's
sorry, I said Drake. I meant Kendrick.
Oh, Kendrick? Yeah. I think this put Kendrick in another stratosphere. Because, it's like he vanquished the biggest bully on the block, right? And the biggest bully on the block was also really, really well loved. And so it gave him eyes that had not seen him before. Mm-hmm. And so I think, it did multiple things for Kendrick. Now, do I think that this is the best thing for Kendrick's music?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Why not?
Because now Kendrick has the curse that Drake had, which is Kendrick has more audiences to worry about than me.
Okay.
When Kendrick made To Pimp a Butterfly,
right,
white kids in Nebraska didn't care about that music, but it didn't matter because Kendrick was making art for art's sake.
Yeah.
But now if you're Kendrick's label, if you're PG Lang, or if he's still collaborating with TDE or whoever, now you're doing projections on Kendrick, maybe in a way that you weren't projecting previously. And so now maybe, I think Kendrick does a pretty good job of keeping artistic control of what he's working on. But maybe there's a little bit more oversight of like, how do I make another song that's catchy enough that little kids are going squabble up, or
do you
whatever.
think he's worried about that though?
I don't think that he's worried about it right now, but I don't know that he's not worried about it later on down the line.
I don't know if that would be a concern for him. And I also don't think that there's any like music exec that would even feel comfortable approaching Kendrick with like, hey, you need to make music that's going to target this specific audience. I don't think they're going to do that. I think
this stuff changes minute by minute, because I think if you would have asked a year ago, mm-hmm. if you would have told Drake, I want you to go back and make a club song.
Yeah.
We like Drake with the melodies. We don't like Drake doing first person shooters or whatever. Yeah. Drake would have looked at you like, get the fuck out my face. I'm Drake. But a year later, now that everything has transpired how it's transpired, mm-hmm. like the circumstances are different.
So the reason why I don't think it would be a big deal is because at the end of the day, I don't see Kendrick veering away from the formula that he uses in his mind to create his albums and his music.
Okay.
Right.
And what is that formula to you?
Just it's whatever it is for him. Okay. It doesn't. We don't need to talk about what that formula is, but just whatever was going through his mind when he did Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, Damn, Big Steppers. Mm-hmm. I didn't miss anything, did I?
Untitled. You got the main.
Yeah. Whatever goes through his mind, like his vision. I don't think that any exec can say anything that's going to disrupt his vision, right? I think that one of the reasons for the success of this song, obviously everybody was playing it, it was everywhere, but mm-hmm. like, this is not even one of the reasons. Like that's the big thing I want to talk about is all the content that this song created.
Oh yeah.
But it's not even just that. It's like what's the follow-up to Not Like Us? What's the bar that's the follow-up to Not Like Us? I already said it.
But
it's the mustard.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so long as Kendrick can deliver like one or two of these moments from his albums, that's really all he needs. And when we talk about like Jay-Z, we talk about tricks. Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
Oh,
it's like,
it's a great trick.
How can you create just one single moment that is going to create all this other content and sustain whatever product you put out for a lengthy period of time? He doesn't need to orient all of his music for this.
I understand that everything that you're saying, but what I'm saying is Not Like Us and its success mm-hmm. shaped what GNX was.
Yeah.
So Mustard comes from, I have the biggest song in the whole country and I need to make something really catchy, right? Yeah. And I'm not saying that Kendrick is now entirely beholden to the labels, mm-hmm. but what I am saying is that it may shape in some ways how he approaches music, and it may have to continue to shape it maybe or influence it in more ways than it has in the past. And so like my favorite Kendrick projects are, Good Kid, Mad City and mm-hmm. Section 8, like he's never going to go back into that bag again, probably, right? Because he's making music for much larger audiences than what his audience was back then. That's what I'm saying.
Were you expecting Kendrick to beat Drake at his own game?
I don't think so. Not the way he did.
Do you think Kendrick knew he was going to do it? Do you think Kendrick knew that Not Like Us was going to hit the way it did?
I don't think so. I think he knew in his heart of hearts that he was going to win. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the other crazy thing. I think whatever the other 12 records are that he had something for everything. Yeah. So one of them was gonna do what he wanted it to do, right? Yeah. But I just feel like there's no possible way you could know that Not Like Us was going to do what Not Like Us did.
Okay, so then before we get into the Drake side of this, and we can talk for hours about the Drake side of this, but one last thing for Kendrick for now is like, what does this do for his legacy?
I think that it's going to be harder for old heads to not put him in a GOAT conversation.
But why is that something that we should be avoiding?
I think it has been in the past. So people have talked about GOAT, and some people have thrown Kendrick's name in these GOAT conversations.
Gotcha.
And it's always been, he's too young, his voice sounds too crazy, he hasn't really done anything yet, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's going to get a lot harder to do that with this, but both with the success of the album and this particular song.
I'm going to offer my take, which I think is relevant because I think between the two of us, I would be considered the more curmudgeon-y hater person when it comes to new artists, right?
Okay.
So back before, I think I did like my top 50 MCs or whatever, I did like a tier list. And I think at the time, I might have even had Kendrick in like a tier 3 or a tier 2 in terms of like MCs, not necessarily artists, right? I think at that point, he may have came out with like, damn. But for me, it was still just about like lyrics, MCing, flow, wordplay, all those things.
In that timeline, you were saying that Kendrick was overrated. His lyrics don't really stick. He doesn't have things. Okay.
As an MC.
Okay.
So as an artist, like I think LL Cool J is in the GOAT conversation in terms of hip hop artist. As an MC, he's down the list for me.
Gotcha.
So in terms of Kendrick as an artist, I've always respected it.
Okay.
Because I've always liked To Pimp a Butterfly. Damn was cool. I did like Big Steppers, but like I always respected what Kendrick was able to do as an artist. Okay. As an MC, back then people were already putting him in the GOAT conversation as like hip hop MC, hip hop MCs and lyricists. And for me, he doesn't belong in that. And I will say, even now, would he be in my elite tier? I mean, my elite tier, as you know, is Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas, and Andre 3000. Is Kendrick in there for me? I don't know. He might be knocking on the door. I still think lyrically, he hasn't given me enough bars as those other artists have. Okay. But what he is now is clearly in the tier 1 conversation. Clearly. That's, your Eminems, your Ice Cube, your Scarface, your Tupac, Rakim. Like, he's in there for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Once you get there, you can kind of, you can organize them however you want to. But I mean, he is solidly, no doubt, top 15 artist, which people, it's so funny, like, I say that and people are like, oh, it's disrespect. It's like, no, it's not. There's a lot of good MCs that we've had. But without a doubt, in terms of artist, absolutely, he's going to be in the GOAT conversation. Right up there with Tupac. Right up there with LL Cool J. Right up there with Jay-Z, if you want to put Jay-Z in that conversation, which I think he does deserve to be there. Right? But yeah, he's there. And in terms of an MC as well, I mean, he's close. He's close. So I don't have a problem with it. And I think between the two of us, I'm probably the person who would have had a problem with it. He's not as good as the 4 that I mentioned for me as an MC.
My favorite thing about it, like where he is now in terms of like the pantheon of whatever, is on first person or like that, he says, fuck the big 3, it's just big me. And I feel like when he said it, I liked it. Like I just felt like it was like putting your dick on the table. Like it was audacious. But now it's true. Like there is no big 3. It's Kendrick, and then those other 2 guys live somewhere below.
How do you think J. Cole feels about that?
I don't think that he likes it, but I think he knows he's not about that life.
Do you think he got tipped to what was going on? Do you think someone got to J. Cole and be like, I don't think you understand what's about to come?
Schoolboy Q said he told him.
He told him what was about to come?
Yeah, they were at Dreamville Fest or whatever. And he said he like kind of pulled him aside and was like, look, like, I don't think you understand. Like, there's something going on between them two. Kendrick is taking this very seriously. Like, you think that y'all are about to go like do a little scrimmage, but he's taking it really seriously. Like, you might want to just like let it go.
Man. One last thing I'll say about Kendrick is, man, this is actually kind of a while ago. I remember like in 2016, which is like 8-9 years ago now. It's crazy. But I remember, someone on Facebook had posted like one of those like troll things that like is used to like get a lot of attention, but whatever. And it was just like, oh, which school is best? It's like old school, new school, and future school. And it's just like, old school wasn't Curtis Blow. Old school wasn't Tupac or Biggie or Wu-Tang. Old school wasn't even 50 Cent.
It was like
Old
Kendrick.
school was Kendrick and Kanye and J. Cole. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like that's still the current, like Future was in that.
Bro.
Right? And obviously
Future was in old school?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
I don't know who, and then the other people who were in the new school and future school, like these were the folks that had like their names are spelled with uppercase and lowercase letters and symbols and things that grammatically make no sense.
They were intentionally trying to piss you off.
Yo, you look at their faces and it's just like tattoos and Skittles in the teeth, right? Like that was like whatever. The reason why I bring this up is because obviously whoever put that together, like it made sense to somebody, even if it's like a joke, and I don't know if it was, but like it makes sense to somebody, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you can go to a kid's birthday party now, a 5-year-old's birthday now, and they just want to hear the song. Because you know like how kids do. Yeah. You know, was it the Old Town Road? What was the Lil Nas X?
Yeah.
Was it Old Town Road?
Yeah.
Yeah. These kids, like parents were talking about how like, oh my God, like I just have to listen to this song on repeat 10 times a day. Right? Like it's just on repeat. Yeah. That's what it was for Not Like Us.
Yep.
Shoot, that's what it was in my house. Yeah. My wife listened to this song 10 times a day. I'm not kidding.
Really?
Every single time.
That's funny.
And she was just rap all the lyrics that she knew.
Yeah.
She was into this.
I think Panama was saying the same for his kids.
Yeah.
They're like Not Like Us and Squabble Up, I think.
And so now, like, you know, you can go to the R&B parties or what was the ones that they used to throw at Big Chief with Jamil? What was those parties? The set. You can go to something like the set and put on some like So For Real, and we'll be like, My Love. We haven't heard that song. Like that song hasn't been relevant in 30 years.
Right.
But you know, we could put on the
Before I Let Go or something.
That's
like
actually
that.
the one I said. Before I Let Go.
Yeah.
Now, 40 years from now, these kids that are 5 years old are going to be bopping to Not Like Us. Kendrick is always going to be relevant now.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, fuck hip-hop. He's been, like, goated musically now because of this. Like, if you take Not Like Us out, he's still in my tier 1 of MCs.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, everything he's done before that, like, obviously I had to respect it, right? But, like, you put Not Like Us in there, and now he's in there with, like, the fucking Beatles. He's in there with Elvis Presley. I'm not kidding. Beyonce, Michael Jackson, like that's where he is now.
So you and I talked about this off mic, but would love to hear it on mic. So what's your favorite like lyric or part of the song? Because there's so much there.
Well,
right?
I mean, the obvious one is the A minor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, can you think of another one?
I have so many, but my favorite is freaky ass nigga. He is 69. hey, run for your life.
I do like if we're not going to say, okay, so let's rephrase the question differently. It should be outside of A minor.
Okay,
what's your favorite moment of the song?
Right.
So you're saying it's
freaky ass nigga. He is 69. God, I sing that with my whole chest and laugh every time the song comes on when I'm out.
I think the moment for me is actually right before A minor, and that's the wah.
That one is super popular, and that one like DJs will fade down because you can hear the whole crowd wah.
I think the reason why I love that moment is because, you know, I know that you said that like everybody knows all the lyrics to the song. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know every single lyric, and even if I did, I don't have the tonal breath control that Kendrick has to spit it. Yeah. But what that wop does is it, in case you've been tripping on the lines before that allows you to catch up and get on beat and get ready for the A minor drop, which still
that's the one.
I mean,
A minor,
man.
Literally, you just hear the whole crowd. A minor.
All right.
And then here's another one. Sorry. Say Drake. Everybody loves Say Drake.
With the wink and the little dimples. Say Drake.
Yeah, Say Drake.
Oh man. All right. Should we get into the Drake side of this?
Let's do it.
Well, I asked the question, where does this leave Kendrick? Where does this leave Drake?
Broken, tattered, on the canvas, trying to figure out what's next. We probably could do a whole 5-part episode series, but my nigga, you going to the authorities and doing a lawsuit and trying to sue somebody over a rap battle is literally that, like, everything that he said about Drake, about him culturally and everything was just completely just ratified and validated with, those moves. And so, I mean, I think Drake has a long road back to being at the full power that he was in before this battle.
You know, the NBA playoffs are going on right now, and whenever there's basketball, there's the GOAT conversation between LeBron and MJ.
Right.
I don't even have to tell y'all where I stand. If you don't know where I stand, just listen to this conversation.
You don't listen to the podcast.
Right? But, people are still going to have that conversation, and they're probably going to be having it for a long time, right? And it reminds me of a friend of mine where he stands on that, like, he's like Kobe. But even when it comes to MJ and LeBron, he's like, nah, it's LeBron, right?
Okay.
But he was very much like, old school hip hop artists are cool. Like, I have respect for Biggie, Tupac, kind of, but like, I don't really care about this music. Like, Drake is my guy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Future is my guy. And Future is still his guy.
Okay.
He said he liked Kendrick, but like, Drake is his guy. And I remember he came into town for the homie's birthday, so we went out there, and when Not Like Us came on, he was out there rapping every single song, dissing his boy Drake. And at that point, it was just like,
you're like, okay,
you've been arguing for LeBron the whole time, and then you just had to realize that, like, nah, like, it's MJ, and you've been arguing for Drake the whole time, and now you just got to be like,
you think that's what it is?
I think that when he's your favorite artist, and now you're singing his diss track, like against him, calling him a pedophile, singing that joint with a smile on your face, bopping.
But he doesn't know dude from Adam.
No. I'm talking about the people who put Drake there. Like, I think he's still gonna have some of his stands. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, like, it's one of those where, one of the ways people like to win an argument is to just make sure that you're in a room with the most people who actually agree with you. Yeah. Right? At some point, it's like that room just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And at some point, you just can't ignore the fact that like Drake is done. Now, I'm not saying he's done for every single person. Yeah, I don't think but so. I think for people who actually kind of like took this serious, if you thought about Drake in that way, you just can't do it anymore.
I think that there is a bit of an age and generation disconnect, though, with the way this is perceived. And there are a lot of
well, the person I was talking about is 10 years younger than me. So.
Okay, but there are a lot of particularly young men. This is actually funny. Because you know how we've talked about how Eminem is kind of like the first incel rapper, or one of the great incel goats, right? Of rap. But there is actually a large, contingent of male incels in the generation behind us that see Drake as their champion.
Interesting.
And so there are actually a good amount of people who are deluded and say that Drake has actually won this battle, and that, Kendrick is overrated. Kendrick is everything that we think Drake is, et cetera, et cetera.
But those are delusional, irrational people.
But there's a lot of them.
But there's more of everybody else.
Maybe.
I promise you there's more of everybody else.
I think there's more than you would think that are still on the Drake side. I think
when you have white boys in Canada who Drake was their favorite artist, like bantering him on their podcasts and videos, which I've seen, just like laughing at just whatever. I don't know what can you do?
Bro, I went to an all Drake and Drake inspired music party. It was in the fall of last year, so let's say maybe September, October timeframe.
Okay.
It was here in DC.
You went to this?
Yeah, my homie was like, "Yo, we got a table at this spot. Come through." Cool.
Did you know what it was before you went?
I don't hate Drake, bro. like his music is fine. You know what I mean? But man, I mean, it was flooded and it was mostly women, and it was great. Like it was beautiful in there.
Okay.
But I say that to say that like Drake could be fine. His music is still going to persist. He has a lot of great music that I think is going to persist. It's just about him getting past his own personal ego and figuring out from an identity perspective. Like when your identity, I called him Shang Tsung before, right? Like his identity is just sucking up everybody else's identities.
He's a culture vulture.
Right. When you've been knocked to the floor in that way, then now you gotta regroup and figure out what it is that you want to do. But his catalog is his catalog. Like it is what it is.
Let me ask you, you've been out more than I have in the past year, obviously. Have clubs been playing his music any less?
They have been playing it less. But what the one thing that I will say, I'll never forget, I was at a party, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody I knew was DJing. And they were doing their thing and people were enjoying it.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yo, you think Drake still got it or something like that? And I was like, so then he ran like 5 Drake records back to back. Yeah. And it was just like people were going up. And he was like, Drake still got it. And I'm like, yeah, Drake still got it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, though he has undeniable records. Now the damage has been done, and it has really impacted the way he's perceived. And people do like those records less, or at least they want to show to the public that they like those records less.
The record he did with, was it Party
Next Door? This new stuff?
What's it called?
Nokia.
Oh, so you do know it. Okay.
And it's some people say it's the song of the summer. It's very popular right now.
That's the track. Didn't he?
He did a project.
Yeah. What's the name of the project?
What is the project?
So you don't even know the name of the project.
This shit was trash.
Name another
it's
song.
Not good.
So he has one hit song on there is basically what you're saying.
To me though, but again, right? So he made an album of songs that are supposed to be like love songs for the ladies.
Yeah.
And that whole I hated I hate Kiki, Do You Love Me? Are You Writing? I hate every single song that Drake makes like that.
Okay.
So what's the I'm more than just an option? I fucking hate all those songs. That genre of Drake music I don't like. And so because of that, I don't like that project. But that doesn't mean that other people don't like it. That just means Yinka doesn't.
So does he just shift to strictly R&B now?
I think he should shift to a softer tone. Do I think he will? No.
But how does he come back and try to sound hard after this?
So so on that project, right? Some Sexy Songs for You. That's what it's called. SSS for you.
Oh, that's right. Because of Freddie Gibbs.
And then Freddie Gibbs got pissed off, right? Some Sexy Songs for You. So he has like 2 songs on there where he like is giving you bars.
Okay.
And in both, like he kind of talks tough a little bit, kind of has some bars at Kendrick or whatever on it. I think he can still do it. It's just, it's like, do we believe you? Like it doesn't hit as hard for us as the audience. But I think he's gonna, for his own personal ego, he's gonna need to do that.
Does he ever respond to Kendrick?
I think so.
What does that sound like? You think he comes back with a diss to Kendrick?
Well, like a full on, I think he's gonna keep doing the like, this is a song that's not about Kendrick, but 4 of the bars could be about Kendrick.
I think that The Heart Part 6 is proof that Drake won't do it.
You don't think he'll even have bars towards Kendrick? Because he already has. He did on the Some Sexy Songs for You. He had bars on there.
They were addressing what happened, or they were dissing Kendrick. They were talking about like, I'm left here and this, that, and the other. Because I remember he came up with some verse and Toure was on TikTok talking about like these bars aren't all that great. And it's talking about how like, you guys thought I was killed, but I'm fine, or something like that.
Maybe. I feel like he had some bars or something about like, you're not what people think you are. Like some shit like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't like straight to him. It was kind of like, it's kind of like vague.
But I think that is a very, thin line to walk, because like Kendrick wasn't even done. Like what you have shown is that you do not have the stamina to last 10 rounds with Kendrick. You don't.
Yeah.
And there's an argument to be made that you didn't even have the stamina to last 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, if Kendrick in a month had however many diss tracks, it's now been 12 months, 13 months. In his spare time, he's probably just, what's another way I can diss Drake without even having to release the record? He probably just like in his sleep, he's just coming up with diss tracks because that's how much he hates him.
But here's the alternative. I'm also Drake now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've also had 12 months, and I work by committee. So the Nokia song, there's already a video of the kid who actually wrote that song and produced it, walking to the gym singing the song months before the song was released, right? Mm-hmm. So everything Drake makes is by committee. So he could have hit 12 people by now and said, yo, give me some bars that I can incorporate about this Kendrick guy.
Okay. The Nokia song, Drake, is it actually the song of the summer? Like, is it a good record? Or have his fans just saying that?
Okay. So again, I think I'm the wrong person to ask. And here's why. one of the last 2 summers, right? Sexy Red has had songs that have been considered possibly the song of the summer, the last 2. I don't think anything that has Sexy Red on it, for me, could be the song of my summer. And I mean, I could be proven wrong. Okay. Sexy, do your thing. But that's just like, for me, it's not my bag.
Let me ask you in a different way, right? Let me phrase this in a different way. Drake has definitely had hits that were songs of the summer, right? What was the New Orleans bounce one that he had that was sampling Lauryn Hill? That was a song of the summer, was it not?
Yeah.
He's had
a lot of songs of the
He's
summer.
Had a lot of... Is this Nokia record in that echelon?
Does it need to be? Sorry to ask a question or answer a question with a question. And the reason I say that is because you can only play against the teams that are against you. When people ask, all right, LeBron won in a bubble, would he win against the 97 Bulls? Well, the 97 Bulls weren't there, so he played against them. Right now, the only competition for Drake and this song really is Glorilla. There's nobody else that's like making records that are getting played like that. So
the reason why it kind of matters to what I'm about to say is that like, it's not just the songs that you're competing with. It's also like, is he making records that could be considered timeless?
But see, that's a different question because the song of the summer has to do with that summer.
So
right?
So what I'm asking is he making any records that would be the song of the summer that would still be lasting that you could play like 5-10 years from now? Because he has songs of the summer from previous summers that you could still play now at parties and they'd still be good. So is Nokia on that level?
I want to say no, but here's why I won't.
All right.
So another song that he has that I don't think is very good, Ratchet Happy Birthday, right? You've probably heard it if you've been out at a birthday with girls, right? And it's your fucking birthday, girl, blah, blah, blah. He's like singing. I think that shit is fucking ass.
Oh, that's from the past, right?
From way back.
That's from like Scorpion or...
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, he had that track.
So that's like 10 years ago.
Was it Nonstop?
It was on the same project.
I like that Nonstop.
I like Nonstop still to this day. It's one of my favorite Drake records. But that record has stood the test of time. I go out and if it's a girl's birthday, that song gets played. This song is ass. So to me, it's ass.
I see what you're saying.
So like the Nokia song, I could see in this baby girl, let me see you do your dance with your homegirl. This shit sounds corny to me.
All right.
But
so
they might like it in 10 years.
I think that is also something that caters to a specific audience.
Yes.
Right? All right.
Yes.
So where I was going with this is I think the next time Drake actually comes out with a record that hits all the audiences the way his best records have done, I think Kendrick comes out with a diss to take him down.
That might really happen.
Like it
might happen.
If Kendrick is as petty as I hope he is, that's the move.
Well, they say that Drake has an album that's coming out this year, right? The album is, I don't know if it's done, but it's like it's formulated to a point where the label has put it on their calendar.
Yeah. So
he's coming out with something this year.
So Drake does his releases on Friday, right?
Okay.
Kendrick's drop is
Saturday morning.
Like that's the move.
It would be great if he did. I would personally want to hug Kendrick if he did it.
But seriously though, like if you hated Drake that much, wouldn't he do that? It seems like a smart thing to do. And here's the thing.
Does he still care about him, or is he I whipped your ass so bad, I'm not even thinking about you?
Well, so what I'm saying is that is the risk. It's always there.
Yeah.
Like from this point forward, Kendrick is always going to be Drake's boogeyman. Unless Drake actually gets back in the ring.
He shouldn't.
He won't. But unless
you're right.
I think that is his only way out of this. I don't think it's coming out with hot music. You know what I mean?
I don't agree with that at all.
But the reason why is because, like I said, I think that the threat of Drake always just putting him back down in his place is going to be there. If Kendrick actually has a dope diss track that's also a club record, that's a fire club record, like Not Like Us, that threat is always going to be there unless Drake actually comes back and starts swinging proper, which he won't.
I think that Drake still can do something that Kendrick can't.
Which is?
I think that while Kendrick does have Luther and some of these other records, I think that Drake's style for the ladies and Drake's ability to create really big records, big outside records, is outside of the general wheelhouse of what Kendrick is. And I'm not saying that Kendrick can't stretch and do those things. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if Kendrick's just in his factory making the toys the way he normally makes them, that's not his bread and butter.
Yeah.
Like it is Drake's. And I think if I were Drake, my strategy would be to stop being a dick and sleeping with other people's girlfriends. Because literally, like, the reason why Drake was the darling of the industry when he was because he was making hit records and giving them to other people. Okay. So, Stay Scheming. Here you go, Rick Ross. Here's a hit record. Yeah. You know, Future, here's a hit record. This person, here's a hit record. So you knew you could come to him for your hit.
Yeah.
But then at some point now, you know he's got a hit record, but you also know that he slept with your girlfriend or he's trying to sleep with your girlfriend. So you're like, all right, yo, he's a weirdo. I don't like him. And I feel like a lot of that also helped Kendrick out. Mm-hmm. But if Drake can kind of mend some of his other relationships, it seems like he already has with Future and Lil Baby. Mm-hmm. So that's 2 people. But if he can mend some more of these other relationships and then start to service hit records through those artists, and then he can feature on those things and those will build him up. So he can be built up with others. But if he doesn't build a community around himself and it's just Drake versus Kendrick, I think he loses every single time.
Okay. What do you know about President Hoover? Like, what's President Hoover's legacy? I know it's random, but I
don't know.
He was a president during the Great Depression, the start of it, right?
Okay.
All right. Like, that is what he's always going to be known for. So it's like, I can't name every single president across U.S. history, but like, there's presidents who've been great, and then there's presidents who've been bad, and there's ones that have been in between. If you're not great, you want to be one that no one remembers. Right? You don't want to be the guy who you're remembered for being part of like one of the darkest periods, you know, outside of slavery, just economically, one of the darkest periods in U.S. economic history. Right? This record is like a stain for Drake. And I'm going to go to another presidential analogy, right? Okay. If anybody has heard Dave Chappelle's Killing Him Softly, he talks about how big the president of the United States is, to the point where you could suck his dick and then you're famous, right? He talks about like Monica Lewinsky. She got famous for doing what she did, and now she can write a book and she's an author and she becomes famous, right? The thing is, that's what Drake's legacy is now. This diss is so big that regardless of all of his music, 50 years from now, they're going to remember that Drake is the guy who got dissed by Kendrick with It's Not Like Us. That's what this is.
Maybe, or I'll offer a counter. Maybe it's not written yet. Maybe it's, you know, the greatest comeback of all time, the greatest career comeback of all time. This guy, we thought he was down and out, and he went on to release 5 more multi-platinum albums and become the greatest ghostwriter of all time.
Yeah, but you don't believe that.
I don't believe it or not believe it.
Okay.
I think he could still do more. I think, honestly, to me, I think Drake's biggest loss is actually his relationships. Okay. I think it's Lucian Grange and Dr. Dre high-fiving each other.
But we care about that, though, right?
We don't, but I think that the reason why Drake always won was because the industry was behind him. Whether it was the machine, all the marketing and promotion, the big wigs, press and go on all of his projects, all that. I think all of the community around Drake is what made Drake.
Gotcha.
And when the community wasn't there anymore, he fell flat on his face. And to me, it's just, if he's able to get that community back around him, I think he can do it.
Yeah, but he's like, oh my God, he's got like the scarlet letter now. Like, he's got the ick now, you know?
Yeah, but the music industry.
In fact, that would be a good name for a diss track. Kendrick could just say the ick.
The industry is in such dire straits right now that I think that if they think that he could save them in some way by bringing them some sort of revenue that they don't have, I think that they would be willing to get behind him.
But do we ever come back to Drake?
You and I? Probably not.
But that matters, though.
But we don't matter.
Well, no, but we do, because Drake isn't just a big smash because he got the ladies, right? Like, he's a big smash because he had a lot of demographics. Yeah. And now he's like a laughing stock. You know, like, whenever Drake names comes up and like you kind of chuckle inside, like, he's that little bitch boy. Like, that's,
but we're geezers though. the generation of incel men that are younger than us. And I'm sorry, I probably should call a whole generation of people that. I'm just joking. But there's a whole generation of folks that listen to hip hop totally differently than we do.
That's true.
And I think may have a different perception of this battle and how it impacts his career than we do.
I just think that, you and I, we've been picking apart Drake for like the musicality of his records and how he goes about like the business of his music and how we don't like that, this, that, and the other. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, people care about, is it a bop? And, a lot of people listen to group music in the sense that like it's better when you're listening to your friends and you're singing along to all the tricks versus by yourself, this, that, and the other.
Right.
And I just think that side of things Drake used to own. He used to control it. He used to dictate it.
Yep.
I'm just not sure if he can do that again. And because I think at the end of the day, unless something is really, really hot, like, because that's the thing. I remember back in June, in July, the talk was like, yo, just come out with a smash. But it lasted so long. It's still going on. It's still being played nonstop at kids' birthday parties. Still.
But I think he has to. And the crazy thing is, the first steps that he made, I thought were terrible. And I think everybody can agree that they were bad. But
which first steps?
He made a song that he said was like a parody song, like Wagwan Delilah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, he was just doing stupid
stuff. Why'd
you
do that?
Exactly. So, but I think this last move, I thought was kind of stupid and dickish, but now I think may have been really shrewd, which was put out an album under somebody else's name so that if it fails, then you can say that they failed. And if it succeeds, you can succeed.
So the LeBron move.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
So yeah, he puts this out. It's a Party Next Door and Drake album.
Yeah.
But then he heavily promotes the song that's just him, which is Nokia. The song becomes very successful. I've heard that the label is trying to mend fences with him over the success of that record. So they've now pressed the button so that it's getting the label, support. Does that mean he's going to drop the
lawsuit?
No.
Oh. Because the lawsuit is against his own label, right?
It is. Yeah.
And I'm sure that's been covered ad nauseum, so we don't really have to talk about it here unless you want to.
But they're still making money off of him and his releases. So yeah, I still think that's the wackest thing I've ever seen in hip hop.
That's what I'm saying, though.
We've seen some crazy shit.
It wasn't because here's the thing: it wasn't just the diss; it was how he responded to the diss. Yes. Like that's crippling.
He's a Karen.
Yeah, like you don't recover from that. Like everybody recognizes a bitch when they see one, and that's what that is.
But the Nokia song is for the bitches, so I mean it works. Like I think
no, but
you know what I mean. Like
you need the fellas too.
I think we'll see.
Do you think Kendrick got some ladies with Not Like Us?
Oh yeah, for sure, no question. And the children.
Yeah, he definitely got the children.
A lot of ladies love that song. So I mean. It's definitely this song, to kind of bring it back to Not Like Us. Like this song really, really changed the landscape of hip hop. And, then GNX as an album, it'll be interesting to see what the next kind of frontier of both artists looks like.
It was, what are those things called when they put the things on your chest?
Defibrillator.
Like, it was the shock, whatever. Like it was a jolt that hip hop needed for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been saying for a while that I think hip hop has gone stale, but like I needed the record. You know what I mean? It gave me life. Hip hop needed it for sure. And I think the other thing too is that, and I know this conversation has been kind of had, but like the fact that like people were saying, I was saying in some texts that like the fate of hip hop actually is in the balance here, because if Drake wins, then hip hop as we know and love it is like is dead.
That's fair.
But if Kendrick wins, then it's just like, nah, that is a huge win for the artistry that we grew up with, that we want to remain.
Yeah.
And so, I think that, Kendrick, his legacy is cemented, but I think that I would hope that in terms of perception, how the masses view these two artists, I would hope that because, even if you still like Drake, I think you still have to recognize that Kendrick is now really elevated. And I'm hoping that people can see him high on his pedestal, on that platform that he's built for himself, and recognize all of the other beautiful things that he's done, because it's not just Not Like Us, it's all his other music. Yeah. And I hope that provides, you know, a reference point for other artists to be like, nah, let's be more like Drake. Let's be more like Kendrick. Let's be more about the culture, about the people, and about like this beautiful music that we can make. I'd hope so. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
You know, man. I'm not sure if I had that much faith in that, but like, if there was any chance, like Not Like Us helped create that.
Yeah. And I think, you know, to your defibrillator point, I think this whole beef actually was like the defibrillator for hip hop in some ways. Because like many things happened. You know, 2 of the Kendrick records were mostly over just like soul samples, and he's just rapping. Like that's like some Wu-Tang type shit. You know what I mean? Like, so even just his approach to making these records that got a really high level of visibility was one thing. Also, the way that they released them. I think there was a little bit of a label battle going on that I don't think we've all the way understood and digested. But the fact that they were putting songs out straight to Instagram and straight to YouTube, and you know, they were bypassing the DSPs. So they were not servicing these records to Spotify. They were not servicing these records to Apple Music. The major labels have deals with these streaming services so that the revenue all comes back to them.
Right.
And so they were bypassing these revenue channels so that the revenue was going to different places. So I think they were fighting this battle on multiple different fronts. And I think those things really probably advanced hip hop as well, just in terms of, you know, how we can own more things, own our masters, own things more, and make more revenue personally from them. And so
when you say they, you're not talking about the label, you're talking about the artist.
Yeah, both Drake and Kendrick. I think that they were experimenting in some ways with how they could bring more revenue back to themselves in how they release these songs.
Which we like to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think the label knew what they were getting into?
Hell no.
If they could go back and do this again, you think the label would squash all this?
No, because I think I think that they were in the middle of negotiations with Drake. And I think Drake thought that he was going to use this to his advantage, and it worked against him. And I think that from a negotiation perspective with a major label, the deal that Drake was negotiating is bigger than any other artist on the table, Kendrick included, who's looking for independence.
Yeah.
So I think they're probably like, good. Now he's going to have to come back to the table and take whatever we offer him.
Oh, I see what you mean. So you think that deal is not as big as it would have been?
Hell no.
Well, then if that's the case, then everybody wins.
So I don't know if any of these numbers are true. So, you know, this is some chat GPT ass shit. Just listen to me because this is what I heard. But, you know, I heard that initially Drake was coming from a $200 million contract and was looking for a $600 million deal. So he was looking to like really up the ante, and they didn't necessarily think he was worth the $6.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, he'd probably be lucky to go back to the $2 at this point. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see.
Got you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do we have anything else to discuss on this?
I think we did it to death. Hold up. I did have like one question from Panama, but I feel like we answered it.
Okay.
Where does it leave the legacies? And then you asked the question about greatest hip hop diss of all time, which we definitely should have a greatest hip hop diss of all time discussion.
Yeah, it's number one.
I think it's I know it's top 3 for me. I don't know if it's number 1.
Have any of those other diss records won awards?
That's why I fucked your bitch, you fat motherfucker.
But that didn't win any awards though.
It didn't need to, bro. It was what Not Like Us was of its era.
The thing is he the only one rapping on that record?
Nah, it's the Outlaws too.
And then he's like, you have that line, but he's also talking about like the Mobb Deep line is actually funny, but he's not even just talking about Biggie.
But still, I mean, this is a diss, right? Like,
I suppose I don't.
Control, I think, is a great hip hop diss, and that's not just about one person.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. For me, this is not. I don't even think it's close. I don't think any of those other diss records touch as many people as this one.
I think we got
the fact that at the Olympics, right? There's a clips of Steph and LeBron warming up, and the song is coming on, and Steph is like. Man, I'm tired of this. It's the only song. It's like there's other songs back in the States.
Bro,
and LeBron is like, I don't know. I fuck with that. I like that.
If the only factor is that mainstream people like it, then like I feel like we like our podcast is pointless.
But
right?
I'm talking about just how big it is, though.
It's big, and I think that's a factor. But I think that there's other factors too.
But okay, like, yeah, you could talk about like lyrics, you could talk about the beat, you could talk about the bars, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like the fact that Drake fans are singing along to it, like that's I don't see how you win to that.
Yeah, I think that
I don't see how there's another winner.
I think that it depends on your vantage point, and I wish Panama was here, but I feel like I'm speaking for him. I feel like he had mentioned No Vaseline as one which I think could be considered. I think that The Bridge Is Over is one, right? There's Hit 'Em Up, which I definitely think, and then there's my sleeper pick, which I always say, which is Lost Ones. I love that. To me, that's like one of my favorite diss records, just because.
And that's all above the Jay-Z Nas records.
Well, you can add those two.
Yeah.
So there's I think there's a conversation to be had. Like I don't think it's the far and away.
And Jada diss.
All of them.
That was a good beef.
Yeah, that was a great beef. So there's a lot to consider.
Gotcha.
And I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment and just say because we're 1 year in and this is everywhere that it has to be the best, but it definitely has to be considered.
I think Sing It Played on Repeat at kids' birthday parties to me makes it the winner. Like, that's it.
The kids' birthday parties are hilarious. I just can't wait till the Kids Bop CD comes out that has the song on it because I know it's coming.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Yeah. So, be on the lookout for things that we have going on in the future.
Yeah.
Watch the space where, Panama's going to be a more regular contributor.
For sure.
And we're going to try to stay relevant with certain topics that obviously we're going to go back into our bag talking about, hip hop records from the golden era. And as well as also like, some more of the soulful projects as well. Might get Haas on here to do a thing or two.
For sure.
So, yeah. So, that's going to wrap it up for me.
All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace.